Welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host Trey Holiday. Today is August 4th. Happy birthday, Tone. You know what? We have a great show for you guys today. You guys know what I gotta do right now. You know I gotta throw it over to my guy, my boy, my friend. Big O, what's going on? What's going on, Big O?
Hey.
Good morning, buddy.
What's
How
up?
are
Good
you?
morning, Treyana. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right. As usual, you're bringing all that black girl magic over
Hey,
here.
yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? I'm digging that lipstick, too.
Thank you. A new color. Trying out something new.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a Mariner's blue. Maybe you'll bring the M some good luck, man. They got spanked last night. You know what I'm saying? 11-1 Oakland. You know what I'm saying? 4-4-7, but you know that's the best thing about baseball. There's always another game.
There we go.
So,
there we go.
We'll see what's going on. Today's it's a big day here in the state of Washington. Primary election day.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's where everybody, if you haven't done so already, you know we exercise our civic duty. You know we're all stakeholders in this state, in our individual counties, our cities, you know, and things like that. Lots of stuff on the ballot. Yo, it's like 40 different people running for governor.
My goodness.
You know what I'm saying? It's like it's real interesting and everything else. Did you already vote?
Yes, my vote got put in this morning. Done and done.
All right. Well, so yesterday, and along with a super producer extraordinaire and also known as the postman, you know, said we walked over there and I dropped off my ballot, and this is actually what Bobby Steels put together. Somebody's either getting in office or out of office, man. 100%. All right, so here it is. Ballot is filled out. Getting ready to do my civic duty right here. Encourage everybody, you know, when this airs, you'll still have up until the end of business day to drop your ballot or make sure that it's postmarked by August 4th. You know what I'm saying? This is a participatory society that we live in. We got to participate. So let's do our part. Voila. May all the candidates I voted for win. Thank you, Bobby Stills, for putting
That was a great
that
package,
together.
Bobby Steels.
Yeah, so you have until 8 o'clock tonight to put the ballot in the drop boxes for people out there who haven't done that yet. Or if you're going to do by mail, it has to be postmarked today. So, you know, in that case, you definitely want to go inside of a post office. You don't want to risk it and just put it into a mailbox. You want to make sure and put it inside, go inside the post office, everything else. Man, I haven't seen this much excitement around, you know, all the different, around people voting. When we were shooting this yesterday, it was hard for us to get our shot because so many people were just coming in and dropping off their ballots.
Well, I mean, at this point in time, you see there's people out in the streets trying to go for what they want, go for the change they want. Now, this is the opportunity they have to at least vote for a candidate who fits a lot of those demands, who maybe fits some of their value alignment. I mean, this is what it is, man. It's anybody's game out there.
Man, you know, I mean, this is your actual, this is the voice right here. This is your voice. And, you know, a lot of times the voter participation is low. Yeah. You know, I mean, all across the country, it's relatively low. But we'll see what voter turnout is today. Also, got another clip right here, a PSA about voting, you know, from my brother. He's down there, literally has his herb vote hat on today. He was down, I think, at CenturyLink earlier.
Morning, what's up? This is Shikundi with Herb Vote. I just wanted to let you all know that this morning and up until 8 o'clock tonight, you can come down here to the CenturyLink Event Center. Now this is actually south of CenturyLink Field. It's right down here on the corner of Royal Broham and Occidental. So come down here today and you can register to vote and vote in person all on the same day right here at the CenturyLink Event Center. Okay? Where else can you do that? So if you've missed the boat, you lost your ballot, you just moved here, you want to change your registration, whatever you want to do today, it can be done in terms of voting. Do not miss this election. Okay? This is your chance. Do it today. Vote.
It's like, man, vote, vote. And my brother's running for the 37th.
Absolutely.
We'll see what happens down there.
Yeah.
You know, when we had him on the show, everybody think I was gonna bake him, and I was like, what makes you qualified? He was like, yeah, I'm uniquely qualified. So we'll see. A lot of great races going on. So definitely want to remind everybody, get out there and vote. So something like we took another look, and we continue to look at this story about protesters at Chief Best's residence there in Snohomish. And, you know, before the show yesterday, we had a package all ready for it. And then other information started to filter in. And so, you know, as yesterday, we're like, oh, well, let's just wait. Let's talk to some people and everything else and kind of see what's going on. And yesterday, we split it in two issues. One issue is protesters marching on Chief Best's home or Juarez home or any of these, elected officials, although the chief is appointed. Let's just say officials, marching on officials' homes. And then there's the issue of what happened with the protesters and the people there in the city of Snohomish. Now, a lot of people want to put all that in one pot, you know what I'm saying? But like, I see it as two specific issues that could equally be addressed and, and everything else. And we talked about the idea of protesters going to officials' homes yesterday, and we kind of held off on talking about protesters there in Snohomish. It looks like it's the everyday marchers, and we said on air yesterday, I think we know those protesters. So it turns out it's TK, who's been on air, I mean, really for the last 2 months. We've talked to TK several times and everything else. A lot of other video has surfaced. And, we've seen a bunch of different narratives. We're just going to put everything out there and people can kind of make some decisions for themselves. Supposed to actually talk to TK today. We're hoping to hook up with her yesterday, but we'll hook up with TK today. But just want to show you a few different clips that are here that were in the news, and then also play an interview that we did with TK about a week ago. So the first clip we have here, this was when I think this is Cairo. Cairo covered the press release when it came out. Actually, the letter that Chief Best wrote to the city council.
Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best says aggressive protesters showed up late last night at a residence of hers in Snohomish County. She says her neighbors prevented the crowd from trespassing or other illegal behavior despite, quote, repeated attempts to do so. In a letter to the city council president, the safety chair, and the rest of council, Best urges them to, quote, stand up for what is right. She goes on to write, before this devolves into the new way of doing business by mob rule here in Seattle and across the nation, elected officials like you must forcefully call for the end of these tactics.
So that was when the letter first came out over to the city council, right? And then we started to see some other coverage of it. Do we have the clip here? Okay, so they're loading it up. And so, that came out, and then the initial story was that hundreds of BLM protesters went to march on Chief Best's home, and the neighbors basically came to the rescue. If you could put this up, Daryl. This is from the Linwood Times. Hundreds of BLM supporters stormed Snohomish County neighborhood to protest at Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best's home. So this is like, again, the Linwood Times, and they were saying that hundreds of protesters came there and they stormed the neighborhood. And so that's that right there. Now, King 5 caught up with TK and some of the other everyday protesters last night, and no, that's the wrong one. We got another one in there, but anyway, so as there you go. So this is King 5 right here. They caught up with TK and some of the everyday protesters last night.
In a letter, Chief Carmen Beth said the protesters who visited her neighborhood were aggressive, and if it weren't for the intervention of her neighbors, they would have trespassed and caused damage. Well, I spoke to some of the protesters there that night, and they say there's another side to this story.
We literally wanted to go exercise our First Amendment right and ask the chief of police some questions.
That's what members of the Seattle group Everyday March said they wanted to do Saturday evening when they went to Chief Carmen Beth's Snohomish neighborhood.
Some of our protesters then exited cars to go see what's going on up there, and at which point they were met with neighbors who had rifles in their faces.
Out of here. There's a private drive. Get out of the road.
They never got to the chief because they said neighbors intervened, blocking the road and showed them weapons.
We tried to educate them and tell them it wasn't okay.
They tried to explain what they were doing there, but the people on the road refused to move. They left when they no longer felt safe.
We are from Seattle. We represent part of Seattle. So if you want to stick up for the people in that neighborhood, then go work for that county or whatever the case may be. Give up your position as chief of police of Seattle and go work there since you're sticking up for them.
In a letter asking for city council to denounce the protesters' behavior, Chief Beth said these protesters were being aggressive and lauded her neighbors for deterring crime. Snohomish County Sheriff Adam Fortney agreed with Beth, calling the demonstrations at officials' homes a bullying tactic.
You guys are coming out your house with AR-15s to confront a bunch of people in clothing, cotton, no protection, no nothing. So if that's, I guess, whatever, bullying, I would not say that. Holding you accountable is more like it.
The group says they want understanding of what they're trying to accomplish, not to destroy, but to spark conversations.
We are not trying to just talk out and yell. We are truly here to have a conversation because the things happening in Seattle right now cannot keep happening.
They say they will continue to protest, continue to demonstrate until their demands are met. And speaking of those demands, Seattle City Council is in talks right now to see what defunding SBD would look like. And there's potentially a committee vote on that later on this week. In Seattle, Vanessa Michania, King 5 News.
Vanessa, thank you. Only one Seattle City Council member responded to Chief Beth's letter during a meeting today. And here's what Tammy Morales had to say.
I take exception to the response by our police chief, who celebrated that her neighbors met these young people with guns.
City Council member Dan Strauss has met with the loosely formed group, but today did not condemn their visit to the chief's home.
So, it was a few days ago where we were talking about that you can't. All these protests is so polarized right now. You see what I'm saying? That there's so many different groups of protesters, and the everyday. And we got another clip here from TK. We'll play it in a minute. But the everyday march, that's something that I've covered plenty of times. And this group right here is one all about being nonviolent. Two, they're all about, having the cameras everywhere. Like, they're one of the protest groups. You get some of these people out here who are protesting. They're like, man, put your camera down. Don't film us, this and that. This is one group right here that is very transparent. They want to stream everything. You know what I'm saying? I've never seen them in black bloc. One of the reports here was that, all these protesters wearing all black and everything else. And also in one of the news reports there, it said protesters came there wearing masks, which I think you're supposed to do. That's what they're saying right now is COVID. And I mean, it'll be interesting because now that this is out there, it'll be interesting where I'm sure a lot of people in that neighborhood have security cameras on their lawn and everything else. It would be interesting. And so if any of the people up there in Snohomish might want to share video that they might have of this particular group of protesters being aggressive, then share it. We'll put it on air, and everything else. And then there's reports of hundreds of protesters. We're getting different accounts on numbers and everything else. But as usual, we got something in our file. I interviewed TK back on July 29th. And talk to TK actually about violence and destruction and protests and everything else. And something else about TK is she is one of the only people who say that they are a protest leader and who people consider a leader who's well respected, who calls out violence. She's like, man, anything, destruction of property, violence, I'm not for that and everything. She's one of the, I mean, 'cause we talk to people all the time, like, how do you feel about this? Well, you know, people, property over people, this and that, everybody has their views. She's one of the few people who's 100% like, man, if you came here to be violent, if you came here to be non-peaceful and everything, don't march with us. And so this is a clip from July 29th right here.
It's really time to pick a side and stand on that. Like, and it's real. People can say what they want. Oh, you guys are too peaceful. You guys don't get nothing done. Okay, well, we had 3 council members coming out of their houses talking to us, telling us, committing on live streams and in front of at least 100 or 200 people every night saying that, hey, we'll give you guys seats at the table. We're gonna involve you guys. And so far, they've been proving that low key. We've been in contact and whatnot, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll see if they really are for defunding SPD. And if listen, they can say they are, but we're gonna make them stand on that and prove that. Listen, we're not like everybody else. We ain't gotta tear the city up to get our point across.
Right, and speaking of that, you know, I mean, the everyday marches have been peaceful. I've been on quite a few of them. You know, do you have any worries that the events of last weekend, you know, overshadow the things that you guys have been doing, which has been peaceful protesting every day?
No, I don't think so, because when you separate yourself and you distinguish yourself from other people, you can tell who's really here for Black Lives Matter and who's here just when it's time to mess the city up. Like, come on, those things, people show their true colors when those times come. The people that come out here every day marching with us show us every day that Black Lives Matter, and they're really here for Black Lives Matter, not just to tear the city up. Oh, that's cool. When you tear the city up, they stop listening. They don't care. They don't want nothing else but to hurt you. That's all they care about, is hurting you at that point. They're not caring about what you got to say at that point. We peaceful, man. We go to the council members' houses. They say it's intimidation or whatever. No, it's called accountability. We're holding these council members to their word and making them stand on that by showing up. And they come out their houses to talk to us.
All right. So, you know, like I said, it'll be interesting here to see how this one plays out. And, you know, like I said, there's 2 separate issues here. There's the issue of, you know, that people are debating on both sides. Should protesters go to officials' homes, right? That's over here in this bucket. The other bucket right here is what really happened in Snohomish. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? What really occurred there in Snohomish? And, you know, just keeping it real, like I said, that was July 29th. I didn't know that this was going to happen. You heard there in the interview. I've been on all these guys, these different marches. They're a very peaceful group. They're not the people that spray paint in front of people's house. They're not the people calling people vile names and all this kind of stuff and everything else. And, you know, whether people agree with the tactic of going to officials' homes, that's right there. But what I've seen is how these guys move and operate. And what we're getting, the narrative that we're getting out of Snohomish sounds totally different. And like I said, why they call it everyday march as well is because a lot of these guys, they get off work, you know, and they're in their work clothes and then they're everyday marching. And so I've never seen them in black bloc. And when we say black bloc, that's the people who are in black head to toe and everything else. I've never seen this everyday march in black bloc. And usually it never garners hundreds of people, maybe, you know, not like that. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, especially for certain neighborhoods, Capitol Hill, this and that, and everything else, you'll get a good number of people. This is also the same group that was there on the freeway when Summer Taylor and Diaz Love were hit there on the freeway. This is that same group right there. So, you know, we're going to continue to follow up as to what really occurred there in Snohomish. And it would be interesting to get, you know, if people there in Snohomish, if they got video that shows this, you know, it's lots of claims of aggressive nature and potential illegal activities. I read an article there. They were saying that people would try to rush the yards with duffel bags and some other stuff and everything else. I mean, man, there's so many cell phones that are out there these days. I'm sure somebody has that on camera because we just want to be able to put the full story out there. You see, we're not running with one side or the other here. Our job here at Converge is try to pull as many pieces from all together and put it in place. So like I said, I'm glad that we waited a day on this and for us to gather more information about what happened. And again, there's an argument to be had whether protesters should go to officials' homes. But this right here is what, and depending on who you talk to, there's some on Twitter and some of the reports, some of the reporting about this group was like, man, I literally called them terrorists. Wow. And so, you know, we want to put as many pieces out here and, you know, let the public decide for themselves.
Yeah, well, once again, I mean, this is where video, live stream, I mean, clearly we saw some of the footage there from, you know, the everyday protester group, and we were able to see that some Snohomish neighbors or, you know, some county members out there came out, they did have guns. We did see that, right? And again, that's all we can do is share what's out there. Like you just said, you know, maybe some of them have security cameras on their homes.
Send us
there
the
might
video.
Be another side.
I mean, because
definitely,
video. I mean, that's what I'm saying is I mean, video isn't the end all.
Right.
You know, especially video from one side or something like that. And so, like I said, if you're up there in Snohomish, if you were there, if you had a video of what transpired, especially along the narrative of what the Sheriff Fortney is saying, and especially what we're seeing there in this article from the Linwood Times, definitely, man, reach out to us. Info at whereweconverge.com, and we'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like you said, use this platform to tell both sides of the story, man. Put the truth out there.
Yeah, for sure. We just got an email here. Sorry, I got to look in the phone and open it up. It came from the mayor's office. It says here, happening at 2 p.m. today, Mayor Durkin and Chief of Police Carmen Best to discuss the City Council's proposed 2020 cuts to the police department. And so it was lots of activity yesterday with the council. They basically got everything divided up into like 6 different buckets. After the show, we're actually going to tweet out and paste a link to an interview that I did with Kevin Schofield, SCC Insight. Talked to him last night, and he breaks down everything that the council is kind of set up to move to tomorrow, because tomorrow is must-see TV. That's when the city council is going to vote on a lot of these amendments or proposals and everything else. And what gets voted out of committee tomorrow actually gets voted on in front of the full council on Monday. So we'll have an indication tomorrow. So a lot of it's over 30 amendments that make up defund. I think it's close to 36 different amendments that make up defund. There's a few different, you know, crews. You know, Sawant has her thing going. There's the group of 4. They've got more of a moderated approach and everything else. And so those amendments get voted on in committee. And so by tomorrow night, we're going to know what it's going to look like, and we're going to know what the council is going to be voting for on Monday. So, I mean, if people, this is the most engaged, I've seen a lot of people about the political process here, and there's so many people who are learning about, okay, this is how city council operates, and this is how whatever. I mean, and this process is definitely bringing people into the process.
Yeah, and to be honest, once again, people utilizing their civic duty, utilizing their stake in this country, that to me actually excites me. I think what we have seen before all of this uprising was a lot of apathy throughout our country. A lot of folks that were like, man, yeah, somebody else gonna handle that. I'm gonna leave that up to so-and-so. I voted for so, they got it. And now people are like, wait a minute, they don't got it. And I actually need to voice my opinion. I actually need to put myself out there and let them know how I feel about this. And I absolutely love that. If it's nothing more that we can take from this moment, we can at least take that away where everybody is engaged, everybody is a part of the process people are actually excited, to hear this vote tomorrow. I have never seen this kind of momentum with votes coming out of city council. Most of the time, we know that Seattle.gov, the channel, stays on, people aren't watching it, but now I think they have seen a real uptick, man, in people watching.
And speaking of that, we love the Seattle channel, but I think that we'll be carrying that at 2 p.m. So we'll carry the press conference. So wherever you're watching us right now, you'll most likely be able to see the press conference at 2 o'clock today when Mayor Durkin and Chief Best, they have a press conference to address what the council's doing. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we have Sade A. Smith. That's Sade No Chill. So a lawyer. She's been working with a lot of the protesters, representing protesters and everything else. And so we're going to hear what she has to say. This is the Morning Update Show. We'll be right back.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim. Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready. Be hydrated.
Well, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your host, Trey Holiday. And as O said before the break, we are joined right now by the wonderful Sade A. Smith. Thank you so much for coming on to our platform today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's really important for us to always get kind of an inside look, and that's what this platform has really been good for, and really giving the audience, an inside look into what's going on. We know that you have been an attorney, a lawyer, really representing these protesters who are getting arrested. So we want to get right into some questions that we have for you. Now, the city said that they are not prosecuting protesters for nonviolent crimes. Do you find this to be true in your experience?
So, yes, the city has been declining to press charges. But I do think that there's something that needs to be established, that when they make a distinction with nonviolent, we have to recognize that this system is racist at its core. Its foundation is racist. And so even the distinction of violent versus nonviolent is going to have a disparate impact on BIPOC communities. So because they're saying nonviolence, like a lot of the assault charges that are of officers are getting bumped up to felonies, there's no evidence of those whatsoever. And so it sounds good, but it's not really as good as it sounds.
So do you feel that that's another one of those blanketed statements that kind of goes out there, but yet when you dig a little bit deeper, you're finding that there are these disparities that you just speak of?
Yes. The criminal system is very good at using really great language, like the 3 strikes law, right? It's like, people violate the law, get 3 strikes, they go away, and it's because they're such a danger to the community. Like, none of that's actually real. That is not supported at all by the statistics, not supported at all by the numbers, and it's not beneficial whatsoever as far as funding goes either. And so it's really important for a community to be really critical about what prosecutors' offices are putting out, what politicians are putting out about what's happening in the criminal system. So the fact that they are not, that they're declining these charges means nothing. They're still allowing the cops to terrorize community who are literally just going out there and exerting First Amendment activity and their rights. So the cops are, when they engage in such brutality, even though charges aren't being filed, it still has the impact the cops want it to have, because now people can't go protest without gas masks. They can't take their kids. You know what I mean? Like, it is really scaring the hell out of people, and people are staying home, and that's what they want. They want everybody to think that it's like a gaslighting technique. Nobody's concerned about Black Lives Matter. Everybody's staying home. Everybody's, you know, like the protest or the movement is slowing down. It's like, no, you're terrorizing people to stay home. That's why things are slowing down. People want to be in the streets. So again, it's a critical analysis of what the behavior is, and it's not just about whether or not charges are being pressed.
I mean, wow, you're blowing my mind. So in that case, now how many felony arrests and charges are actually out there?
Well, so what happens is SPD makes an arrest and they write these nonsensical police reports. I don't know if you guys have seen the PC search where they're just copying, pasting, and putting a bunch of lies in them. And then people are booked usually over the weekend because that's when the protests are happening. They have a hearing, and then the state or the city will decline to file charges. During that whole time, protesters are not given any information about what's happening. A lot of times, you know, when they're going to get their first call, what they're charged with, when they're going to be able to get out, what their bail is. It's a lot of like misinformation and lack of information. And that's a power control dynamic of just like leaving people disoriented, right? And then they're locked in cages over the weekend. So it's really unclear. It's like there's been some that have been, hey, we want to file these as felonies, and then the state is declining to take them. But what happens, even if there's a decline, they still have the statute of limitations, which is 3 years. Mm-hmm. And so hanging over somebody's head is the 2 to 3 years, figuring out, oh, are they going to do it in the future? You know, there's body cam footage, you know, there's a delay because of COVID. What if something comes down the pipe later and they want to, you know, follow up on those charges? And then the arrest records, if they never decide to follow up, the arrest records exist for about 2 years after. And so you have to wait till all of this is wrapped up. So it doesn't just end with you being released from custody. It's still that overarching what's going to happen in the future. And that uncertainty, again, is terrorizing. How many people are like, do I want to be pepper sprayed, tear gassed by SPD and get the hell beat out of me? You know, spend the weekend in jail and not know what's going to happen. We had to hire another person in our firm just to track down property from protesters, because SPD is not either giving people's property back, there's stuff missing. I had a client who was in the media and her SD cards were stolen. Like, they're just gone. Stuff was all ran through. It's a hot mess. And so it's frustrating to me to see the prosecutors for both the city and the state to be like, oh, we're declining to file, it's not on us. It's like, no, there's a significant amount of action that they could take to demonstrate, one, that they're not supporting SPD's terrorizing of community in Seattle, and two, there's impact that they could do to make a statement. We're not supporting SPD actually in these arrests whatsoever. They're not doing that. They're saying we're not, you know, filing on nonviolent offenders, blah, blah, blah. It's like none of the people out there are violent. And let's be very clear. Violent is crime that harms people. That is how it's defined in Washington state law. It's in the law traditionally. It's about people. So when they say violence and they're talking about property destruction, it's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a distinction because even the law can recognize that people matter more. And so that's just the reality that we're living in. And I do want to do a shout out to, I'm not just doing this by myself. My colleague Talitha Hazelton and also the team that we're working with is really amazing. So, yeah.
I mean, you are blowing my mind, because I think that what we see in a lot of, for me anyway, maybe it's just my world, but a lot of documentaries, mm-hmm. right, that start to showcase a lot of the criminal justice system and a lot of the nuances that happen along the way. Exactly what you're explaining to us right now, mm-hmm. so much of it is not in the public's mindset. Mm-hmm. So all we hear are those sound bites. Well, they're not, you know, they're letting protesters go. They're not charging protesters. So we keep thinking, oh, you know, they're doing their part. Yeah. But ultimately, everybody that's involved, like what you just described, they all understand these nuances that you're describing.
Exactly.
So for me, it sounds like, you know, what we're seeing here, it feels like a lot of old normal practices. I want to ask, from your perspective, mm-hmm. are you seeing any pioneers, anybody who's coming out to try to be innovative in this process?
Within the system?
Yes.
As far as prosecutors, so I do it, like the police cannot do what they do without the prosecutors signing off on it and without the judges signing off on it. So police brutality is a wraparound situation, and that's what's so concerning about this. Like, despite the courts knowing full well that SPD is flat out lying, and Talitha and the firm put together a briefing just to talk about, and it was on Spec's Twitter account too, just how many times they get caught lying and just making up statements. And it's like, we put that, it was like, you are using cop statements as, you know, taking them their affidavits as like to establish probable cause, right? To like, you know, whatever they're making or saying is supposed to justify the arrest. At the end of the day, we know that they're just lying. So you can't use their statements, you can't take them as face value anymore. And I think that Seattle Times had an article with Naomi Ishisaka, I want to pronounce her name right, just pointing out that very fact that every time we go into court, the PC statements from cops are taken as word. And it's like, first of all, this whole like uncovering that cops are lying in affidavits is not new. We've always known this. They've been doing this. And they'll just write whatever. And it's like, okay, cross-examine cops. And it's like, you just told 18 lies. Nothing happened. You go back to work, right? The cops who are arresting people, brutalizing people on the street. I mean, there's tons of video out. You guys know, obviously, you're part of the video too. So, and again, those people still get to go to work. So why is there no intervention by city government, by prosecutor's office? And this is what will happen. And bureaucracies will be like, well, it's not our job. Like the prosecutor's office say, we can't stop SPD. SPD, this like SPOG, their unions, they support Dan Satterberg. They have always supported Dan Satterberg. That's why cops don't get prosecuted when they execute people on video. And so it's this whole like, it's like, well, you know, our hands, you know, we can't do it. It's like, yes, they can. And it's kind of like the conversation with COVID, right? Like the government was like, we can't hand out funds or support people, blah, blah, blah. We don't have the resources. All of a sudden COVID hits, trillions of dollars drop. It can happen. They have to want to make it happen. And so racism has been way more of a pandemic globally, historically, than COVID will ever be. Are they dropping the resources and the funds for that? So it's like, we cannot take what they tell us as truth because it's not. Anytime they need something to happen, they make it happen. And we just have to hold them accountable in a way like, we see through your bullshit. We're not going to accept what you're giving us. We know that there's more and you owe this to us. Like, this is a government established literally for the people. It is for the people, of the people. We have these amendments, and again, they were never intended to apply to BIPOC, honestly. I think people should really accept that. When the Constitution was written, 1787, all of that, we were not in the room. Most of us weren't considered people, so let's be very clear about what this is supposed to do. It was supposed to maintain white property-owning men's power and establishment. And so what the law has been continuously doing, and what policing started as, was protecting rich people's property, rich white people's property. And whether that was in the South where it's like black people were considered property, or in the North where it wasn't, still it's about property. And then only afterwards, it was a private endeavor previously, and then it became a public endeavor when like they convinced the public that this is for a public good. But if you look historically in history, and like policing will tell on itself, it's very clear. It's always been about protecting rich property. And that's exactly why you see when there was a threat to property, all of a sudden people got tear gas. When somebody showed up at Jenny Durkin's house, all of a sudden shop got destroyed. So it's like, this is not the games that they play with words and how they're just making, oh Lord, it's overwhelming how much they lie and get away with. And then how everybody's hesitant to say that they're lying or that they're spreading misinformation. Like, this is cop propaganda, and that's continuously what it has been. Even the situation with Carmen Best, I started crying when I saw that letter, because that is so threatening to black children, and the disregard she had for them, and that she was just sitting there supporting people pulling guns on those children, protesting. And it's like, these kids are like fighting for their lives. This is not something, it's not black lives in the future, it's black lives now. They need them to matter now. We're still trying to close this youth jail. And they're saying 2025 or whatever like that, blah, blah, blah. It's placation. But at the end of the day, like, you cannot, as a police chief with your type of power and authority, sign on to this type of vigilante stuff that got Trayvon Martin murdered. So I find her offensive to the core. I find Jenny Durkin's activities offensive to the core. You do not tear gas people for protesting. I mean, like, they're snatching umbrellas. People with the arrests, they snatched off our clients, protesters' PPE, took it off, threw them in the back of unmarked vans with people who had been pepper sprayed, so everybody's coughing and hacking. People have been quarantining. Protesters are, for the most part, like, having masks on, doing things safely. They get in SPD custody, and it's like, oh, COVID, blah, blah, blah. And mind you, there was an outbreak at RJC, which is the facility in Kent, amongst the corrections officers. Within that outbreak, the King County Corrections Guild actually had a beef with Department of Adult and Juvenile Detention about the procedures and everything, because corrections officers weren't being protected. So if corrections officers weren't being protected, how do you think people who are in cages are being protected? So it's like the fact that they're snatching people up, throwing them back of trucks, mind you, for no reason, having them cuffed for 7 hours, people are beaten and bruised, shot point blank with munitions, faces like bruised up and smashed into the ground. I mean, one of our clients, Samantha Six, and she's obviously given me permission to talk about this. She's already given information as well. She was supposed to have life-saving medication. It was in her bag. They just lost her property. She's tracked her phone to the West Precinct. They keep telling her it's not there. And it's like, again, we had to get another attorney to do this. And so it's like, it's wraparound full-on brutality, not just from SPD, through when they get to the jail, how they're being treated and traumatized. We have multiple people who corroborated what Samantha Six's statements are regarding her treatment. She could have died. and they did not care. And so when we talk about holding police accountable, holding politicians accountable, it's the fact that they're only going to politicians' houses when this type of stuff is going on, and the youth know this. They know that this is how the treatment has been, and like, you know, people are like, oh my gosh, this is how cops are, we're so surprised. Like, no, it's like, they were just doing this to BIPOC behind closed doors, or like, you know, at night. People didn't care. But now it's happening to white folks in the street, now everybody can see it, and it's like, oh, we can't look away from it. So really think about holding them accountable in a way that even they don't think that they should be held accountable.
Well, oh my gosh. I mean, to be honest, my next question was going to be about treatment of protesters, and honestly, just through your depiction of some of what your people have experienced, some of your clients, I'm glad that she gave the permission to give that statement and give that narrative. I think so much of this, again, it goes behind closed doors.
Yeah.
You know, we don't understand all of the nuance that really happens, and I think the subtleties of what you're describing, because again, everybody that's involved in this ecosystem of prejudice or whatever, like they all understand and are aware. So my next question really for you is, you know, what are normal people supposed to do now, right? Like once we get this information, once we understand just how corrupt the system is, right? What can people that are out there protesting, fighting for change, wanting something different, what is it you say to them?
I say, you know, Seattle has always surprised me. I'm not from Seattle. I moved here in 2013, and I was a public defender for 7 years, 5 of which at King County Public Defender's Office. And so my head was kind of down. And then like I got involved in the NAACP, and I started seeing what local organizers are doing. I'm just amazed, like King County Equity Now, Decrim Seattle, like people are doing the work. And what happens is like people wake up and they're like, oh, I want to say something. It's like, dope, you want to say something, but learn history first, because people have been doing this for so long and they know the language to use. There's so much information out there, and so much of our history has been erased, and how much we've been involved in movements for liberation previously. And so it's one of those things that's like wake up, follow the established groups as far as like, you know, that are really involved in abolition work. Because again, we're talking about, people are scared of not having police because we've never experienced an existence where an authoritarian actor was not telling us how to behave. But we don't need that. If community has resources, and this is just studies, statistics, if people have resources, there's a complete decline of crime. Like if people have access to support, they're fine. Like people struggle, and then you have a struggle response, which is, you know, results in crime. That's a symptom of a greater social issue. But when we have lack of education, lack of healthcare, lack of shelter, you know, abuse and trauma not going treated, then you have these social ills that people want to deal with. So again, if you want to stop this stuff, we need to defund these places, and we need to completely abolish them. And I say that, and I want to say that without any hesitancy, because Seattle Police Department has been under a federal consent decree since 2012. And they went out there and terrorized people for protesting. A baby got tear gas, or pepper sprays. Like, reform does not work. They've had the equity trainings. Everybody knows about this, and it doesn't work. And that's because at its core, and I do want to mention this, policing, there was a study called the Stanford Prison Experiment where, I think his last name is Zimbardo. He had volunteers who were attending Stanford come in, community members. And a few of them, you know, half of them would play guards, half of them would play inmates. And they did this through the day, and then they go home at night. So they knew it was a plague thing. What was established in the study is that even within those limitations, even knowing that this is not real, there was a huge amount of violence and trauma from the guards to the inmates. The inmates had, you know, numbers identified, no names, and it's dehumanization. And what you learn about people is that when you have a situation where there's such a huge power disparity, where one group has control over the other, you're going to have abuse. And it's not because people, particularly that are cops, are bad. It's because that's a human nature kind of thing. And to think that that can't be you is to be played. It can be you. So, but it's also, we need to recognize that the institution of policing is a power dynamic disparity issue, and there's no way that it's ever going to be healthy. And it's also very traumatizing for the people who are actually cops. And it's weird for me to say that a lot because I don't usually advocate for them, but it's like there's a lot of domestic violence. It's like 40% DV rate. Like this, it's just, ugh. The shit's not healthy for anybody. Everybody needs to get out. Cops can get new jobs. I know people are like so committed to them, but they don't have to be cops. There's other things to do. And when we talk about when we move forward, what I love so much about this iteration of the movement is that we're talking about new things. Like before, people were so married to capitalism, so married to the idea of policing, but we can see ways of doing it another way. And that is going to free so many people. And this is about collective liberation. Like, we can't continue this way. It's going to continue to harm. So I would tell people to engage with the local community groups, read. If you can't, like, if you're not a big reader, there's tons of people like that, you know, audiobooks. If you're not into that, there's tons of videos. I mean, there's so much media. You know, social media is so brilliant. It's so amazing. There's a lot of different ways to get involved. But yeah.
Educate yourself and get involved.
Educate yourself, yeah.
Wow, Sade A. Smith, man, thank you so much for educating all of us this morning, all of our audience members this morning. So much great stuff that just came out of you, and I think a lot of insight. So we really appreciate that. You guys, we are going to take a quick break. You guys are watching the Morning Update Show. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim? Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready. Be hydrated.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Co-host Omari Salisbury. Right now, I'm very, very excited about this segment right here. I'm joined by actually my colleague, Jake Gravbrot. On the stream, you guys might hear he says, Jake, big Jake. So, but you know, he's always usually all covered up and everything. And so we've got you out here on set today. Welcome to the Morning Update Show.
Thanks for letting me be on this side of the camera.
Yeah, so people actually see. And so the reason why I'm excited about this segment is a lot of people, they know Converge for video, for live streaming and things like that. But we have some very outstanding photographers here at Converge who've been capturing this protest ever since May 29th. And Jake is one of them. And what we're getting ready to do over here at Converge is really start putting some of the photos that we've been accumulating, or that you guys have been shooting. You, Eric Calligraphy, Nikki, have been out there shooting for literally for months now.
Yeah, we've started month 3, haven't we?
Yeah. So, but before we dive into some of your photos here, if you can kind of tell us briefly what made you've been taking photos for years, but what made you be like, hey, I need to document or take photos of these protests or what's happening?
So I shoot one kind of calculated image every single day. It's been a project of mine for years. So I always make a point of trying to get out and do something and take an image each day. And on May 29th, which was the first actual day of protests in Seattle, I was like, I'm going out for the protest because it's something that I believe in, but I wanted to just be out there to document. And that I got out, saw you out doing your thing, and I didn't even expect that things were going to get a little bit little spicy, but they got spicy on that first Friday. So then at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to be here. You know, I think there's sustainability in this movement because for a lot of reasons, and I just want to be out to be able to document it. So.
All right, well, good stuff. Do we have those photos in queue? So what we have is the director over there has a series of photos in the system. So maybe we'll pop some up here. We'll put the first one up.
Can't see them, sorry.
Oh.
We have them in OBS.
Okay. Well, that means that we can't describe them then.
Yeah, well, no justice.
Okay, they're getting ready to show us over here.
We got
It's the beauty of
I
live
roughly
TV.
know which ones we're speaking on, but.
No, it's fine. We'll give them a second here so we can see. Okay, so yeah, this is someone holding up a sign. There's fire in the background. Tell us a little bit about this photo.
I mean, that was taken on that first Saturday, which for a lot of people was the actual first day that they had come out to protest.
That would be May 30th.
That was May 30th, and it was a gnarly day. It was rainy. It was probably some of the worst weather we've seen this entire protest. And initially, things had started out, you know. Just large, but still kind of peaceful. Things were moving around the city, and then all of a sudden, I got a call that it was going down at Westlake, and I was almost on the freeway at that point. So I ran back in, and this particular shot, you know, like with protesters, you have to really kind of be cognizant of the actual the faces, and so that shot, I really tried to go in and just make sure that it was dark, but that the intent of the image was still really seen. It's pretty moody.
All right, what else you got? Right. What kind of camera do you use?
I use a Leica Q for most of my stuff. So it's a fixed lens. It allows me just to pretty much just shoot with one thing and not to worry about too much else. So.
How many images do you think you've captured, like in total clicks, the last 2 months?
Gosh, I mean, I've gone through this is my third hard drive since the start of the protest, and that's video too. So that next image that's up is one of my absolute favorite from this entire thing, just because of it's just something you just don't see. The moodiness, I'm a moody photographer, so that image right there was right up my alley. And it's actually since been used as the album art for Rel B. Free's most recent EP. So I'm stoked that it got used for something.
Sorry. You got another one up there?
There's.
It's fine. We'll wait for it to load up.
Trying something new today, sorry.
Oh, it's all good. That day was that was from that same Saturday, obviously, and that was really the only day that we saw any of those images, but it was the second day of the protest, so it really kind of popped Seattle off, I think.
Now, I mean, you're sitting down here, but you're 6.
I'm 6'4", so I mean,
I've got much taller than that. You're one of the taller photographers out there.
Which is what makes this next image actually possible, because that was on one of those following days on Capitol Hill, and I just thought that look in that police officer's eyes had this air of almost like not fear necessarily, but just like uncertainty to it. There's a real a humanitarian kind of element to that image right there, and it's just struck me. The umbrellas, the sheer volume of actual officers that are kind of seen behind. It's really, I thought, kind of powerful.
So we'll do one more. Yeah, you know what? For us, Converge started as a platform for content creators in the Northwest. So be it video, photo, written, and podcasting. And it said people really know us for video.
Yeah.
And share the stream.
Right.
And my people know this story. My dad opened the first Black-owned photography studio in the Pacific Northwest over half a century ago. And so photography and photographers are always near and dear to my heart. And
yeah.
Grew up in the darkroom. What do you got right here?
This one, another one that just kind of fits the moodiness of my particular style, but that upside down flag, as a signal for distress. And I just thought that really, truly, that's where our country is at right now, is it just a big signal of distress. So the sky behind that had just this really kind of dramatic quality to it. And again, early on in the protest, there were so many people out every single day, and that also encapsulates that too.
All right, appreciate it. And I think, Nikki, are we gonna have some of these photos up on our social media? this set. Oh, they're up right now. So if you guys at home, if you want to check out the photos that you just saw right here and a few other, there's a gallery up on the Where We Converge Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram yet, it's at WWConverge, and as well as on our Facebook page. And now, one other thing before I let you go, we're gonna take a quick break. When we were talking the other day before the hockey team, before they revealed their name, and you talked about this Kraken, and then they named it the Krakens. I was like, "How you really know about Krakens?" And you were like, "Man, I've got a Kraken tattooed on my hand."
On my hand.
Like, hey, let me see it.
Well, all right. Well, I don't know if it can be seen very well, but it's you know, it was my first actual hand tattoo. It was about probably 13 years old, and it happens to just be that. So maybe I had some.
13 years old, huh?
I took a DeLorean back in time. Or 13. It's 13 years old.
Oh, it's 13 years old.
It's an old tattoo. Took a DeLorean back in time to figure out, you know, what our name was going to be.
But before I let you go, what's your Instagram?
You can find me at walk.into.the.light.
So walk.into.
Walk into the light with dots between everything.
Walk.into.
Yeah, I mean, it's more confusing. It looks it looks easier when you see it.
All right, that's what's up. We're going to let you go and get back behind the camera, man.
All right,
but
thank you.
Thanks for joining us today, and looking forward to more and more photos from you and being able to share them with the public. Converge has definitely well documented these whole protests from all kinds of protesters, police, politicians, different meetings that occurred and everything. We literally have thousands of images, so really excited to share those with the public.
For sure. Thank you.
We're going to take a short break right now. We'll be right back. You are watching the Morning Update Show. Well, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and this is my lovely, lovely co-host, Big O. What's happening? What's happening?
This was a great show today, O.
Yeah, no, I mean, real informative. I think we'll reach out to the prosecutor's office. Mm-hmm. We'll reach out to the city prosecutor, and to the prosecutor at Superior Court. And see what they're talking about. Yeah. I mean, Sade had outlined a series of grievances there, and let's see what the prosecutor's office is saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Always great to get it on both sides, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you see Big Jake, huh? Yeah. He made his Converge TV appearance. He's always there behind the scene. And like I said, a lot of people on the stream, they might realize, they hear me talk about Jake, and it's almost like he serves two functions in both in an amazing way, because he's always with me. People might not realize it or not, but Jake is always with me. So when it's going down out there, when it's getting funky, when it's pepper spray or tear gas or flashbangs and all that, he's there getting flashbang with me. He's there getting hit with the mace. He's as we try to cover these stories. So one, I appreciate you, Big Jake. You know what I'm saying? It's like, Liverpool football team, their saying is, "You'll never walk alone." And it's like with Jake's around, it's like, man, you know, I'll never walk alone. And such an amazing photographer.
Seriously, man. And the funny thing is, as tall as Jake is, man, he be getting them
them
shots, man. He be getting them shots in the crevices, man.
Let me tell you, man, this dude is tall. He be dropping it like it's hot too, cause he get low. Get low.
Absolutely, man. Gotta love his angle. Gotta love his perspective. I'm so glad that we were able to showcase his work today.
Yeah, and again, if you're up there in Snohomish, and if you have video of what occurred up there, you know, we'd love to see it. We'd love to air it. We're just really trying to get to the bottom of what happened, because one thing that we always encourage people is we can't run with just narratives on either side of this issue. We can't run with narratives. We need to really get to the facts of things as much as possible. Like I said, two different issues here. One is the issue of protesters going to officials' homes. Whole nother issue is what happened there up in Snohomish. So we really want to be able to get to the bottom of that. These guys are doing a barbecue after the show. Did you get invited?
I'll be there. Ain't no barbecue without Trey.
I know that. You see, they're trying to rush us off the set.
I know, they're ready.
They can go get their barbecue going, man. So we're getting ready to go. Like the director says she's hungry. You see her? I think it's about time we take a stand.
There we go.
All right. So a few programming notes. 2 o'clock today, we'll be carrying the Mayor and Chief Best press conference. So wherever you're watching us right now, you'll be able to watch the press conference. Tomorrow morning, 11, and then actually right after the show, we're releasing a video. Talked to Kevin Schofield of SCC Insight last night, and he kind of breaks down what the city council did yesterday, so you guys can kind of consume it in bite sizes. Tomorrow morning, we're back again for the morning update show. And then tomorrow night, must-see TV.
It's going down.
As the city council votes on committee on the different amendments, the 30-plus amendments that are there for defund. So we're going to have some special coverage around that tomorrow night as well.
Awesome sauce.
Any words before we get out of here?
Nah, man, I'm ready to get to that barbecue myself.
Ready to get to the food. All right, everybody. Until tomorrow, 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.